There's a very interesting article from the Financial Times that talks about 200 billion euro that would be transferred from Europe to Ukraine if Ukraine was to join the EU. And this would be for a period of 7 years. So those are structural funds that that Europe is paying for Ukraine. So Ukraine would become a net recipient of EU funds. At the moment you have around 12 countries, a dozen countries in Europe that are actually net recipients of EU funds. But because Ukraine would be asking for so much money, would be needing so much money from the EU, you would have pretty much no more countries in Europe that would be net recipients of EU funds. You would have all Europe funding Ukraine. And you would have probably the only countries that would still receive funds from Europe is Poland, because Poland at the moment is the largest EU recipient of funding. Poland receives 12 billion euro per year. So the interesting part is that you have those two countries, Poland and Ukraine. Those two countries are the countries that spend the most money into weapons, into defense. So in reality, those what we call those structural funds are actually there to fund the defense of those countries. The proportions of what those countries are spending, the scale is pretty much what the EU is giving them. So in reality, you have all this transfer of wealth, and those structural funds for Ukraine, it is not even taking into account reconstruction funds. So what we have here is a huge cost for the EU for accepting Ukraine into the EU bloc. And this would actually last decades because we need to reconstruct Ukraine. And keep in mind that Ukraine is completely corrupt. So this is a huge money transfer, wealth transfer into a country that is completely corrupt.